501c3 nonprofit. Our mission is to keep reusable building materials out of the landfill. We do that with hand deconstruction and other methods of deconstruction. All I'm going to talk about is how you're going to get the 5%. All I'm going to talk about is how you're going to turn that 5% requirement into an asset, a way for you to increase your business and a way to take this ordinance and turn it into a profitable enterprise. We're also going to talk about some case studies, some actual studies on deconstruction, and we'll talk about some market opportunities in reuse. Okay. Obviously, the things that we're talking about residential, 1 to 4 units. What's in a residence? What's in an apartment complex? Anything that is a building material is a reusable building material if it's in decent shape. Appliances, obviously, anything that is in working condition that's an appliance is a reusable building material. You already know about bricks. I don't even have to go into bricks. You're doing it now or you wouldn't be in business. Even though you're probably working more with the common, in some cases you can look at some of the face brick. There are markets for face brick in other parts of the country that are not in Chicago. So in most times when you're doing a recycling and a reuse for brick, you're looking at the common, but in some cases you can actually sell the face brick in other markets, and we have a list of those. Obviously cabinets, kitchen and bath, anything that that's still functional. Doesn't have to be beautiful, it doesn't have to be new. We have a lot of people that are buying material that they're putting in their garage, they're putting in their basement, or what is not necessarily a nice cabinet for somebody that's building a new house. It's certainly a nice cabinet for somebody that's renovating or doesn't have a cabinet in good condition right now. Doors. Almost all doors, with the exception of hollow core, is a reusable building material. And one of the things that came up yesterday was the question of lead paint. How can we take things with lead paint? There's absolutely no requirement or prohibition to take a lead painted door or window or trim as long as it is not flaking or peeling. Otherwise you can take that door. We don't take hollow core doors because there's really no market for them, but we take just about every other type of door. The key thing when you're thinking about reuse is not only how you're going to get it out, but how other people are going to be reusing it. So you need to take the product out so that somebody can reuse it. With a door, you want to take the frame and the door. You don't just take the door. The hardest thing in carpentry, as you may know, is to hang a door. So somebody that comes in to like the Rebuilding Exchange or any place else that's buying used doors, if you have the frame, all they have to worry about is your rough opening, and you've got a much easier job of installing a door. Flooring, all hardwood tongue and groove flooring, pine, the old pine floors, the hardwood oak, the maple from the old houses almost all have maple tongue and groove. We get about 98% of our hardwood floors up, and it's very, very, very reusable and very valuable. We do it, we take them up and we denail them, and that's usually the way that you're going to have to deliver it to whatever source it is taking it for reuse. Hardware. Sometimes if you have, let's say some of these houses, you don't have a door that's good, but you still have hardware on it. Take the hardware off. You may not have cabinets that are, maybe they've got water damage, and they're not reusable, but their hardware is. Take the hardware off. Hardware is reusable building materials. Obviously, any HVAC system that's in working condition is reusable. Hot water heaters, furnaces, boilers, radiators, okay? Those old nice cast iron radiators, they're worth more in resale and reuse than they are in scrap metal a lot of the times, depending on the year, depending on the time of the year. Lighting fixtures, obviously, remember when you're taking out lighting fixtures, you want to take out all the hardware. So again, that's hardware plus all the fixtures, okay? We've talked about structural lumber a lot. Anything over 6 feet in structural lumber is reusable. It cannot have any mold or fire damage, although if you're taking out old growth lumber, pre-World War I lumber, a lot of that will have some mold on it. That is worth the few minutes to take out the mold, and you do that very simply with a little bit of bleach and a broom. As you're denailing the wood, you just get the mold off, and the mold will not come back, and then that old growth lumber is then reusable. It does need to be usually denailed and bundled by size, by length, but there is a lot of value in the old growth lumber and even some of the newer lumbers. Plumbing fixtures, obviously, toilets need to be clean. Even the old toilets have value. Faucets, tubs, sinks, anything that is reusable and in fairly decent condition. We take all cedar, slate, and clay tiles and roof. Even though that you may have a problem taking off some of the slate tiles, if they have 2 little holes usually for the copper wire or nails. Many times you can reuse the slate for other things in roofing. Slate's very valuable. Ask Megan, she's taken slate roofs and turned them into walls in restaurants. She's great with that stuff. But we try to get everything that we can as far as reusable building materials, even though they may not be exactly reused in the same form. There's not a whole lot of embodied energy that's going to be used to do other things with those products. Windows, usually reusable windows right now have to be, for them to have any reuse value, have to be thermopane. The old replacement vinyl is fine. Old multi-plane, the old float glass, if it's really interesting, if it's architecturally interesting, yes, you can then take the sashes out, but if it's a window that you think has reusable value, you want to take the frame out again along with it. Obviously, the frame, to build a frame for a window is pretty complicated. So we always take the, if it's a window that we think is going to be reused, we take the frame out. Countertops, obviously, laminate in very good condition, granite, marble. In many cases, we take the sinks and the fixtures right with the countertop, and we sell them as one unit. Trim, again, it can't be flaking and peeling lead paint, but any oak, old interesting, decorative, architecturally interesting stuff is great and has a reuse value. And there's a lot of oak trim out there under that lead paint. So don't, when you walk into a place and you see old painted trim, don't think that it's not valuable. You got to take a look at it and see what kind of material it is. Okay. Obviously, the benefits of deconstruction, one is economic. It supports the local economy by creating job opportunities. We use a crew of probably, on the average, 6 individuals to do a deconstruction, 1 crew chief, 5 laborers. So we create more jobs. We promote the reusable materials, and we support the contractors, allowing them to keep the material costs low. A lot of people buy the reusable building materials. The social and community aspect, we preserve the local building stock. We try to take it as a reusable building material and put it into new buildings. Our old growth forests are still there. They're in the houses built before World War I and before the 1920s. All it is just removing that material and putting it into new endeavors. Environmental, obviously, what we're trying to do is keep all this material out of the landfill and thus relieving the regional landfills of construction and demolition waste. There are 3 forms of deconstruction. Generally, manual deconstruction, where you're not using any type of heavy equipment or machinery. It's very labor intensive, but it gets your greatest yield. We, for the most part, do hand deconstruction only. We don't use a lot of machines, and we don't use a lot of mechanical methods. We use manual deconstruction, and we usually get the greatest yield. There's manual deconstruction with equipment. If you have the right environment, if you have the right room, the room around the deconstruction you're doing, you can use some of the equipment to help you deconstruct some of the material and get it into a reusable form. And the last is what we call the hybrid mechanical manual deconstruction, where using heavy equipment, you take out sections of the structure that you're taking down, and it significantly improves productivity. It reduces labor input, but it also reduces the amount of material you're actually going to get for reuse. Reusable building materials are extremely valuable. They can increase this ordinance and the reuse can increase your bottom line. Reusable building materials have a lot of cash value, depending on the market and depending on the location of where this material is going. They have cash value. It's no different than selling your steel. It's no different than selling your concrete. It's reusable building materials. As the market flows with steel and metal and copper and concrete, it also is that way with reusable building materials. But there's more and more markets opening every day. There's more reusable building materials coming in. There's more people there's architects that are designing with reusable building materials. So there's a lot of new opportunities every day. Hopefully you all make profits. Reusable building materials can have a significant tax advantage for your individual company in the form of a tax donation. In some cases where you may not be able to sell it, you can donate this material, and you, because you own the material, receive a tax donation for that. And I can explain that in greater detail if anybody's interested. Reusable building materials can also have very significant tax donations for your clients, and in fact can usually pay for the entire deconstruction. Okay, so you can either get the tax donation as an individual company, or your clients can take the tax donation that has significant cash advantages. And we'll have some examples here. We're going to start with some of the projects that we did for Bank of America, which we had a contract to take down all their abandoned foreclosed housing in Chicago in a pilot program working with the Rebuilding Exchange and the CARA Foundation for training entry-level individuals. And this was a program that we did about a year ago, and we were doing all of the Bank of America homes on the south and the west side of Chicago. So I've seen, and I know, we've also done this program in Detroit and Cleveland for Bank of America. I know what a distressed house is. I know what something that's been sitting there for years and every scavenger in the neighborhood has gone through already. This is a house on 119th Street in Chicago, which is actually in pretty good condition, but it was a Bank of America house that had a lot of good material mixed. We actually had a couple of toilets, we had a couple of cabinets left, and we also had all the new vinyl windows. Now that was basically the scam, basically, when they did these mortgage things. They would have a Home Depot kitchen, a Home Depot bath, They would put in the vinyl replacement windows. They'd say, bless you, you're now worth $600,000. And obviously it never was, but subsequently we all suffered for it. But in most of these abandoned foreclosed homes, there was the vinyl windows to get. There was a couple of things that were left by the scavengers. In this house, it was pretty nice. They left a few really good things. But the other thing they almost always leave is the doors, the floors, and the lumber, because they don't have, there's no value for them to take that, but there's value for you to take it. This is just an inventory of what we got out of this one house on 119th Street. Obviously, we got all the base cabinets, we got the kitchen cabinets, we got a bathtub, we got some of the towel bars, we got ceiling lights, we got a laundry sink, we got glass block windows from the basement. Next. We got ceiling lights, we got a bunch of 5-panel wood doors, solid wood doors with the old hardware on them. They were really nice doors. We got steel exterior doors, and then we got all the replacement windows. We got 800 square feet of 3/4 by 2.5 oak hardwood flooring and 400 square feet of the maple flooring. We also got, because that's okay, no, go ahead, next one. We also got, when we took off the floor, we had a subfloor. Subflooring is very, very valuable in some instances, okay? Yes, it's like this, but this is kind of what happens to this stuff. It gets reused. It gets reused sometimes as flooring, sometimes as walls, sometimes as ceilings. It gets reused. It has value. After we took that out, we had some nice openings. We had some nice 2x12 joists, old growth. Just cut them with a saw, basically a chainsaw, just wham, wham, wham. We got a whole bunch of joists. What we got out of this in one full working day, that's a crew of 1 crew chief, 5 laborers. The appraised value of the material by an independent IRS certified appraiser was $14,000. There's value in this house. It was old growth lumber, which helped. It was some nice hardwood flooring, but that's the appraised value, again, of the material that was in that individual unit. This is a 3-flat that we had on South Hermitage, and you can't, maybe you can just see it a little bit. It was vacant. It had no roof. The roof was gone. This had been sitting around for a long time. Roof leak, fell in. There wasn't much on the interior of this 3-flat. This was almost to the point of an emergency demolition, and we had Jim Harney calling us daily to get this thing down. So obviously the value here, which you can see right away, is the brick. You would have all gotten that. Next. But what we got out here was there was actually a countertop. We got a bunch of the vinyl windows that were still good. We got a ceiling fan. We got a wood door. We got a 2-piece toilet. We got a medicine cabinet. We got 36 pallets of old Chicago brick. Thanks. And then we got all the structural lumber that was still there. We got all the roofing that was still good. We got all the old growth lumber that was in this. As you know, even though it was wet and it was the roof was gone, old growth lumber, old lumber doesn't accept any more moisture, so you don't have to worry about it sitting out in the rain and the elements. It still has value, particularly the old growth. It took us 2 full working days to do this. Again, 1 crew chief, 5 laborers. The appraised value of the material was $7,645. And that was an emergency demolition. To give you an idea of some of the other stuff that you're able to do in some of the, this is a job we did for the Chicago Park District. We took down a field house near the stockyards, and we did this as a pilot project with Passion on this one. The city wanted to see, the Park District and wanted to see the cost comparison of deconstruction. So we did this for the same amount that the demolition bid was for. Next. And this is a very simple little field house. We were able to get all the roofing structure, as you can see, some nice, I think they were about 28 feet of 2x12s. We got some of the decking. Obviously all the brick came after that. But we got a lot of the stone, architectural stone. This was built in, I believe, 1913, if I remember correctly. So we got, besides the architectural, the interesting stone, we got some keystone, a lot of sandstone ledges, stuff like that. And we were able to do this for the same amount of money as the deconstruction and actually return some of the cash back to the Park District for the cost of the deconstruction. Next. This was a project that we did at 1200 Randolph. This was an old meat freezer facility and storage area. The interesting thing about this project is, some of you may know, right across the street is the City of Chicago, all the building commissioners, the office that has the CTA in it also. So we did this under the complete supervision of most of the City of Chicago Building Department. But what had happened here is this building had been a freezer for 100 years, and the floors had actually buckled. And when they buckled, and buckled almost 10 feet, it pushed out the outer walls. So as you can see here, the front of it was all terracotta, really nice, very nice terracotta. And it was bowing out. There wasn't much that we had to take. We had to do an interior deconstruction. That was really the only way to do it, because all of the walls to this freezer were common walls to other areas that either another company, that they had to save the wall, obviously, and they wanted to save some of the other building, which is now, this building is a city winery. But we had to take out a section where this was falling down. So we took the whole front of it and we got all of the terracotta. Okay? And we were able to save all the terracotta. Next. What we were able to get out of this was 95% of the terracotta blocks, 31 pallets of old Chicago bricks, 132 wood 12x3 ceiling joists, 72 steel bar joists, and we didn't recycle those. We actually sold them as their original length, okay, because it was a pretty standard length. We got the metal roof decking, and we got some of the original 1912 wooden doors and windows out of the project. This was a very profitable deconstruction for two reasons. One, there was obviously a lot of valuable material. But two, we were about the only ones who could do this with deconstruction, because it saved all of the other aspects of the building. It had to be almost a hand deconstruction because it was falling down, and the only way to do it was really by hand. So that was a very profitable deconstruction for the owner and us. To give you an idea of a full deconstruction on a regular house, let's say somebody's taking down a house, you've been hired because they're building another house, and it's in a fairly nice neighborhood, it's a fairly nice house. Here's a situation we had in the Lake Forest. This was a very nice house built in, I believe, the 1970s. It had all new cedar roofing material. It had all thermal windows. It had great fixtures, great detail, a lot of custom cabinetry, vanities, almost brand new HVAC systems, and hot water heaters. Great lumber, as you can see. We did this deconstruction. Next. Deconstruction basically is reverse construction. The last thing that goes into the house, construction-wise, is the first thing we take out, and we just reverse all the way down to the foundation. We start with the roof once we get the entire inside gutted, and then we just work our way all the way down to the foundation. So you can see that this was almost an ideal house to deconstruct. And what we did on this house, we got, there was 136, this was before Green Halo, by the way, so this is all handwritten. It would have been a lot easier with Green Halo. And by the way, we've used Green Halo, and it's a great, great system. It's amazing that we get it free, too. Thank you, Cook County. There was 136 tons of material that was generated in this house. Out of that 136 tons, we got 83 tons in reuse, reusable building materials. Lumber, fixtures, flooring, roof, everything but the plaster. We got 45 tons in recycling, most of it being the concrete. So almost everything above the ground we got in reusable building materials. 5 tons went to the landfill. So we got 97% of that house. The cost to do the deconstruction, the owners paid us $60,000 to do this deconstruction. It took us 35 days, a crew of 1 crew chief and 5 laborers. The tax benefits to the owners, it was appraised at $45 per square foot by an IRS certified appraiser. The appraised value was $234,000 of building materials. They were in a 35% tax bracket, obviously, the highest tax bracket. They got $81,000 in a total tax donation. They got $81,000 of cash. They paid us $60,000 to do it. They made $20,000. We made a lot more. Plus, we got 97% of this building material saved from the landfill. That's a successful deconstruction, but that's how you can turn reuse into a profitable enterprise. Megan is now going to explain to you kind of some of where the material goes. She's going to give you some of the realities of the market. Remember, the market isn't always, if the market varies depending on what's happening to lumber prices, to if we have 300 doors in stock. So there are some variations in the value on the resale end, and Megan's going to kind of explain that and talk about the rebuilding exchange. Thanks.
Hi everybody. I met most of you in the beginning on the tour, but I'm Megan and I'm the Director of Business Development here at the Rebuilding Exchange. Basically my job is to find people to buy everybody's waste and try to make it cool again. We started out 4 years ago. We were started by the Delta Institute, and our mission is to divert usable materials from the landfill and provide them at affordable prices to the community so that they can be reused. We get our materials several different ways through deconstruction projects, as Ken touched on. He's one of our large partners in the deconstruction market. That's when we get a whole building in. It'll be several trucks. That's where a lot of our lumber comes from. We also get them from renovations. We have a drop-off and a pickup service, so people can bring in their materials. If they've gone through a small DIY renovation of their kitchen, they can come in and just bring in a sink or a cabinet, and we provide them with the tax write-off when they come in. And we also have, for drop-offs, we have contractors that a lot of contractors will store their things in either storage or their warehouse, and then they bring in by the trailer loads, like on a monthly basis or something, to keep the materials out of their space. So we do it that way as well. And then we also have a pickup service where we can come to your home or to your storage, warehouse, whatever, and we can pick up your materials and provide you with the tax write-off upon pickup. And we just ask for pickups. We need about a week to schedule out in advance. We're doing pickups 3 days a week. We send out 3 guys and a 16-foot box truck and pick up the materials for you. Then we also have a few partners in the design community, such as the Merchandise Mart. They have a designated dock space on their loading dock where They leave the materials that are no longer used in showrooms, and we pick them up and provide them for reuse. As for contractors, the way that we're able to help contractors, we act as an alternative source for disposal of materials. So they don't have to, you don't have to pay to have them hauled off, we can come and pick them up. We can provide on-site consultation if you have a deconstruction project going on, or if you have even a commercial demolition and you want to know what can be reused, we can come out and say, oh, these are really great 10 by 10 beams, we can take those, we can take this, and we can help provide some of the resources to help divert those materials. We can also help you market your business as a green business and provide a tax write-off. So it's really handy for people who do kitchen and bath renovations, or more of the smaller scale things. We can come in and say, somebody wants to remodel their whole kitchen, but they're feeling a little bit guilty about getting rid of everything that's still in good condition. Then as a contractor, you can say, well, we'll take all your materials to the rebuilding exchange, and you can have a tax write-off for them, and then they can be used and sold to somebody that needs to have the materials at a more affordable price. And so that kind of makes people feel a little bit better about some of the renovations that they might be doing. And then we can provide a tax write-off for you or for your client.
You don't actually purchase the materials though, correct?
In some cases, which I'll get to in just a second, it's a slide coming up. So this is an example, Ken kind of went over it as well. These are the materials generally that we accept as you walk through the warehouse you saw on the tour, or you can walk through further. These are the main materials that we accept and sell the most of, I should say. Let's see here, go ahead to the next one. And this just kind of gives you how to go about contacting us for the materials. We always ask that you contact us first. If you don't come out, we can answer your questions over the phone or over email. We're pretty good at looking, you can text a picture from your phone these days or email it. We're pretty good at looking at the dark pile of things in the basement or whatever that, you might not have power in the building. And we can let you know what materials we can and cannot take so that you don't waste any time loading up a whole trailer full of things and bring it here and then we're like, oh, we can't take that. And then everybody's frustrated. Go ahead to the next one. So this is an example to answer your question. There are certain, as Ken was kind of saying, there are, depending on the market and what people want and what people need, and if we have, sometimes we can purchase materials. I work with a lot of restaurant and bar designers who would want to buy things in full and huge volume. So they might say, I need 5,000 square feet of this, or I need 2,000 square feet of that. If we don't have it, then we want to find it for the person, and then we have a little bit of a budget to put towards buying something. It generally seems to happen for lumber, like larger beams and stuff like that, that we know we have a constant flow, and then we can offer some money for it. And obviously too, we know that you're not going to want to take down some huge heavy beam unless it's going to pay off, So can you go back to that slide? This kind of gives you an example, like this is a pile of material that I purchased. This is the condition that it came in. It was banded, it was denailed. This is material that I would not pay for.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is, let's just say I have, for talking, 1,000 board feet of southern yellow pine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna denail it, I'm not gonna stack it, I'm not gonna band it.
Right.
I want you to come in and buy it from me.
Right. That kind of depends. That's where the price would change. So if you had it and you had it all like stacked over here, but it wasn't denailed, but it was like ready for us to pick up, and it could be put on a flatbed, or we could get it in a truck. We know that you're not always going to denail it. You might not have time on that project. You might not have staff for it. That would just affect the price. Like there would be a price for it that would be denailed. There would be a price for it that would be in this condition. Obviously, like if it's denailed and palletized and banded, that's going to bring a prettier price, but you also put more into it. If you come in and you say I have 1,000 board feet of yellow pine, we could give you a price based on the condition. That would probably be something before agreeing to pay for something. I would come out to the site and look at it, make an agreement with you, And that way we both know before you take the time to take it down what the expectations are. So, good question. Go ahead, you can go to the next slide. This is kind of a perfect example to answer your question. I worked with a demolition company down the street. They had come in and they saw our beams and they were like, oh man, we're about to start on this building. I went out to the building, walked through, and I could say, okay, we can't take this whole building full of the beams, but we'll take this much of them. And then I actually contacted a lumber wholesaler who took the rest of the building. So for them it was a win-win. They were taking it down anyways. And the nice thing about the 10 by 18 beams is they could claw them. So they didn't even need to sit there and mess with them. They clawed them, they set them aside, and we picked them up in stages. So that kind of, in that regard, we bought about $1,000 worth, and then a different company bought the rest. But you know, I happened to know someone at the time who was like, I need, you know, Douglas for beams. We can't take them all, so I kind of try to work with somebody else so that it makes it worth it. You know, I don't know if this demo contractor, if I would have said, sweet, I'll take 10 beams, I don't know if they would have still wanted to give them to me if I didn't find the rest of them. You know, so it's kind of the sooner the better on timing. You know, if I know before the building's even down and I can kind of phase it, the odds are there's more likelihood it would pay off. This is a really great example of a job that we worked with Ken on. They did the deconstruction. It was a church on Kimball Avenue. The church was sinking. They couldn't keep shoring up the building, so they chose deconstruction. The parish asked that 6 people from their homeless shelter were put in the deconstruction job training program. 3 of the people actually are still employed as deconstruction contractors, which we're really proud of. Because of its architectural significance, it was built in 1901. Its location in Logan Square. It's a very conscious neighborhood. People were walking their dogs by it, asking questions all the time. And because of the fact that we were able to employ people through deconstruction, this project got a lot of attention, and this lumber sold like hotcakes. I sold probably $5,000 to $10,000 of the lumber off the site without even ever having to load it into trucks. It went into the truck of the buyer, which Ken and I were very excited about. You can go to the next slide. So this is kind of where this is where the market kind of speaks for what the payout on materials is. Years ago, we didn't even really find the subflooring and the roof decking to be a profitable material as much as the 2x material was. And then we realized that everyone was using it to clad walls. And so the 2x, they had a split. So this became the less labor-intensive way to go about it. And restaurants actually love it. And if you pick up like a Dwell magazine, it's a modern design magazine, you'll see it all over the place. People are even starting to use plaster lath to make their walls out of, which, if you ask me, is a real pain in the butt, because trying to save plaster lath is horrible. It splits, it's brittle. So we really try to get people to go to this. It's a little easier to remove and to resell. This is an example of it used as wall cladding. It's not the best slide, but if you go to this restaurant, it's Kovo. It's on Milwaukee Avenue in Wicker Park here, right near Antique Taco, who also has a ton of our materials in there. But this whole embankment is the roof decking subflooring, this whole wall, and their back wall as well. Next. Here's another example, La Serena. I think it's probably Hennigan is working on the cold storage building that's across the street on Fulton and Carroll. So this is right across the street from that project that's going on. So this is in the Randolph Street area. They use all of our material for the flooring, the tables, the bar top, and in the bathrooms as well. So this was a situation where the designers came to me ahead of time. They wanted to use reclaimed material in their design, and I helped source it. And most of it was from a project that Ken was working on in Wilmette. But it's one of those things that if a restaurant designer tells me, oh, I'm looking for this, and it's the same day that you call and you're like, I have 1,000 feet of lumber, and it's something they're looking for that I don't have, that's a great situation for everybody. Just another example, so Our customers generally tend to run like the DIY, the first time homeowner, independent craftspeople and artisans, multi-unit property owners, landlords. So this is a customer who started out just like coming in, tinkering and wanting to like do something with the materials. She ended up losing her job. She started making tables out of, I needed something to keep myself busy, and everybody liked them, so she did them for her friends, and then she started selling them to retail locations, and now she's doing it for a living. DIY customer, backyard picnic table that they made out of our old growth lumber. This guy started volunteering and then started building stuff on the materials. This is an example of a bigger commercial installation. We work with a group of builders that do design build projects for major companies like Whole Foods and Starbucks, and they did this for State Farm, which is on Diversey, just west of Clark. It's the whole exterior is wrapped in old growth lumber, and the whole interior is built out of salvaged lumber as well. And then this is also a really good example. A lot of customers and clients that are in this design build market, they want to know where the materials come from. I kind of compare it to the phenomenon with farmers markets these days. Everybody wants to know where their vegetables came from, where their meat comes from, who the farmer is, if it's organic, everything else. And it's starting to pick up in the trends for shopping for reclaimed building materials. And when we have something where we're like, this is from a church, it's from your neighborhood in Logan Square, it was built in 1901, or this was from a home that was built by a student of Frank Lloyd Wright, people really freak out for that material. It makes it more marketable. Any of the beams that have stamps over what lumberyard they came from, I mean, that traces it back to like the 1890s, becomes more valuable, and people are very conscious, and they're proud of the fact that they reclaimed something. They make a coffee table out of it, they want to tell all their friends about it, it becomes their conversation piece. And this is kind of an example. This is another trend that's starting to pick up. These people came in and they kind of got a deal. They helped us out. They took all of the scrap pieces of flooring. After you sell 1,800 square feet out of a 2,000 square foot lot of lumber, you're left with just a few pieces left. And so they took all the pieces, patched it together, made their flooring, went back over the whole thing with a floor sander, and now everybody is starting to do this as well. This is an example of a mother-daughter landlord team. They're really good at coming in and getting the bits and pieces of things and storing them until they have a unit to put them in. So they bought a rather large multi-unit property, and as each unit opens up, they go through and they restore it, and now they're actually getting a lot more money per unit. So they increase the value of their property, and they're very thrifty. I mean, not many people would come in and buy one box of one kind of tile, but they know, oh, that'll be a black backsplash one day, so they just kind of store it until a moment arises. This is an example. This place is under construction. It's on Western Avenue, just north of Augusta. Again, it's starting to pick up. You'll start to see this. You'll drive by locations and you'll be like, oh, I saw that lumber pile at the Rebuilding Exchange. So this is a new deli that's opening up, and the whole interior is done in our stuff as well. This is a pretty recognizable bar on Damon, right across from Big Star. Again, a reclaimed facade. And again, this is with the flooring. Sometimes if you can't, customers will come in, they'll want to immediately flock to the 2x old growth lumber. It's our most expensive material. If they can't afford it, we kind of lead them to trying to think outside the box. So this is flooring used as the back benches and the tables for the bar. So if you have questions here for the Rebuilding Exchange, you can contact me. We are open for business now. Our staff is outside, so feel free to walk around and check things out. You can ask me about materials. You can contact me to come out to your job sites. I'd be more than happy to help you know how we can help you facilitate some things. And thank you for for coming out here. If you have any questions for any of us, we're all right here in the room, so feel free.
Thank you.
So we do have some time remaining in our agenda here for Q&A or discussion if you all have any thoughts. I will point you to the resource slide. I'll be at the conclusion of the workshops after next week. I'll be sharing the slides and the resource packet for all of you. Just to point out some of the resources included, the language to the ordinance, which I'm sure you all have seen. Our goal guide, the version here that's bound and available for you was the 2011, I believe, first edition. We've since made some updates to that, and an electronic version will be shared with you via PDF. Our deconstruction career ladder, the market analysis that Brian referenced earlier, and then we've got the City of Chicago construction and demo debris recyclers list, as well as the website to the Rebuilding Exchange. All right.